It was a weekend night, sometime in November of 2015. My 7-year-old son, Sean, was having a sleepover with 4 of his closest friends. It was loud, chaotic, but in the way that only a house full of energetic kids can be. My wife wasn't home that night, for whatever reason, so it was just me keeping an eye on them. And let me tell you, anyone who's married knows, when your wife gives you instructions, you follow them. Her exact words were, keep an ear on them, but don't hover. So every time things got either too quiet or way too loud, I'd casually sneak over to Sean's bedroom door and just listen, not opening it, not interrupting, just listening. At one point, when the noise started getting wild again, I walked over, pressed my ear to the door, and quickly realized they were just playing with Legos and other toys. Loud, but harmless. I shrugged, went back to the living room, plopped down on the couch, and turned on the TV. Then, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, something new caught my attention. A different sound. Not yelling, not toys clashing, but a series of thumps. Rhythmic, deliberate, like someone tapping on glass. I muted the TV, sat there, listening. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from Sean's room. I sighed, figuring they were probably just messing around, maybe tossing a ball at the window, or something equally dumb. As long as nothing was breaking, I figured, let kids be kids. I unmuted the TV, but almost instantly, the noise from the bedroom went completely silent. No laughter, no shouting, nothing. If you've ever been around a group of 7-year-olds, you know that silence isn't usually a good sign. Now I was concerned. So, like before, I got up, quietly walked down the hallway, and stood outside Sean's bedroom door, just listening. At first, I heard soft giggling, whispering. I finally cracked the door open, peeked inside, and saw the 4 boys sitting in a messy pile of Legos and toys, scattered all over the rug. But something instantly stood out. The window. The window was wide open. The cold November air drifted in, and I instantly felt this uneasy pit settle in my stomach. I stepped fully into the room. Hey, shut that window. And keep the noise down a bit, all right? I tried to keep my voice calm. The boys nodded. I pulled the window, closed myself, double-checked the lock, and started to head back toward the living room. But before I made it, I stopped by the bathroom. Just a quick detour. And that's when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A shadow. A black shadow, moving. It passed by the bathroom window, outside, smooth, fast, but definitely real. I felt every hair on my neck stand straight up. My stomach sank. Something was wrong. I darted out of the bathroom, sprinted back to Sean's bedroom, flung the door open, and said firmly, "Nobody go outside. Do you hear me?" And then, that's when it hit me. There were only 4 kids sitting there. There were supposed to be 5. I scanned the room. "Where's Tom?" I shouted. The boys all pointed straight toward the window. Sean, in the most innocent voice imaginable, said he went with the pirate to go find the treasure. My blood ran cold. I didn't think. I just ran. Out the front door, down the porch steps, scanning the street like a madman. And then I saw him. A man, holding Tom's hand, walking briskly toward a tan-colored Toyota Corolla parked at the curb. I didn't hesitate. I yelled, "Hey, stop." The man froze, whipped around, and for a split second, we locked eyes. Then, without a word, he shoved Tom away, jumped into the driver's seat, and floored it. The car screeched down the street, tires spinning, engine roaring, disappearing into the night. I scooped Tom up. His face was pale, but thank God, he was okay. I brought him back inside, my hands shaking, heart racing. I wasn't comfortable with the sleepover anymore. Not for a second. I immediately called every parent, told them exactly what had happened, and insisted that they come pick up their kids. And they did. Tom's parents, understandably, were furious at first. Scared, angry, everything you'd expect. But eventually, after the shock wore off, they thanked me. Tom, thank God, is still close friend with my son today. But what shook me, what still shakes me when I think about it, is how easily it happened. The boys told me later, this man came right up to Sean's window, tapped on the glass, slid it open himself, and started talking to them using a pirate voice. He asked, "Who wants to come help me find some treasure?" And Tom, being 7 years old, being innocent, believed him. The fact that this happened, in the assumed safety of my own home, without me even hearing the window open, is the most disturbing part of all. Because it worked. It actually worked. It all happened when me, my friend Sarah, and my best friend Canada were 15 years old. We were bored, restless, and looking for something to do, and, of course, somewhere to smoke without getting caught. Just a short walk from Sarah's house, there were these woods. We'd been there a few times before, and being the adventurous teenagers we were, it seemed like the perfect spot. Somewhere hidden, private, somewhere we wouldn't get bothered. Looking back now, I really wish we had just stayed behind Sarah's house, watched scary movies, and called it a night. But we didn't. When we got to the opening that led into the woods, everything seemed fine, peaceful even. We wandered in, lit up, laughed, joked around, and just enjoyed the freedom that comes with being young and reckless. Honestly, I wish the story ended right there. But it doesn't. You see, Sarah's neighborhood is actually pretty nice. Clean yards, friendly neighbors, typical suburban safety. Except for one house. There's this house, right on the edge of the woods. An old, rusty, blue tin house that always creeped us out. It had pigs in the backyard, literal pigs. Me and my friends used to joke, calling it the Hills Have Eyes house, but at the time, it was just that, a joke. That changed. As we were leaving the woods, walking back toward the main road, we saw this bluish-gray Chevy pickup truck. Old, beat up, suspicious. At first, we laughed it off, pretending like we were in a horror movie. Joking, running away playfully. But that's when the truck started following us. Every time we stopped, the truck stopped. If we walked faster, it rolled forward, slowly, matching our pace. That playful fear turned into something very, very real. We panicked, took off running, scrambling over a small hill, hoping it would hide us from the driver's view. We crouched there, out of sight, holding our breath, waiting. The truck drove past. The engine faded into the distance. We let out shaky laughs, trying to brush it off, telling ourselves it was nothing. But as we kept walking, nearing the exit of the woods, our stomachs dropped. Headlights. The same pickup truck was now blocking the exit. We froze, looking at each other, trying to figure out what the hell to do. Peering through the windshield, I could see him, a larger man, wearing a red shirt and a hat pulled low over his face. That was all I could make out from the distance. In a full-blown panic, Canada pulled out this tiny pocket knife. Bless her, but there was no way that little thing was going to help us. I grabbed it from her anyway, because it felt better than having nothing. Without another word, we bolted, straight back into the woods. We ran until the sound of the truck faded, until the pounding in our chest was louder than anything else. When we felt safe enough, we circled back and made it out of the woods, running straight to Sarah's house. For months after that, we avoided those woods completely. But on September 10th, we made the dumb decision to go back one last time. It was Sarah's birthday, and yeah, we needed a place to smoke. This time, there were 8 of us. 6 girls, 2 guys. We figured safety in numbers. Right. We walked deeper than we ever had before. After a while, we found this path. One that me, Sarah, and Canada had seen before but had never explored. To get to it, you had to climb down a small, steep hill. Slippery, with loose dirt, but we managed. At the bottom, the path split into 2, a fork in the road. We voted and chose left. It was a short trail, leading to this weird, half-built structure. It looked abandoned, but also like someone had started building it, then just stopped. There was an old wooden ladder, a small fire pit, and the creepiest thing, saws. Yeah, saws, hanging from strings, tied between the trees. If we weren't all high, I think we would have noped out right then and there. Instead, we nervously laughed and decided to check out the right side of the path. Not even 50 yards down, we found something that still haunts me. A wooden frame, shaped like a hangman's gallows. There was a rope, a noose, lying on the ground. Nearby, an old, filthy pair of shoes. And next to that, a shovel, half buried in the dirt. The air felt heavy, wrong. I had never, in my life, felt that kind of dread. We stood there, staring. None of us knew what to say. Then someone whispered, "Take pictures. We gotta leave, now." We snapped a few photos, turned around, and hurried back the way we came. By some miracle, we got out of the woods safely. And right then, we made a pact. Never, ever, go back into those woods again. To this day, we all believe that man in the pickup truck, the one who chased us months before, had something to do with what we found there. And every now and then, I catch myself thinking, what would have happened if he'd actually caught us? I'm 27 years old, and I live alone in a small rural town in Virginia. My house is only about 2 blocks away from my parents' place, close enough to visit often, but honestly, sometimes a little too close. My parents are both in their 60s, and my mom, well, she's become a pretty worrisome person in her older age. She has this habit of walking over to my house uninvited and letting herself in, since, regrettably, I gave her a spare key a while back. It can get pretty annoying sometimes, especially when I come home late after being out at the bar or spending time with a date, only to find her sitting in my living room, waiting, worried sick. I know, most people would say, why don't you just set boundaries? Just tell her to stop. But if you knew my mom, you'd understand, it's not that simple. She's this sweet, overly innocent little woman, and on top of that, she's recently developed mild dementia. Telling her no feels like telling a puppy no. It's just really hard. Anyway, this was on a Saturday night. I think it was close to 2 a.m. I had been out at the only half-decent bar in town, hanging out with some old college friends. Small town life, right? Not much else to do here. After saying my goodbyes, I started walking the short 3-block journey back home. It was cold, quiet, the kind of silence that makes every sound seem louder than it should. When I got to my front steps, I fumbled in my pocket for my keys, still a little buzzed. My hand reached for the doorknob, and that's when I noticed it was unlocked. Great, Mom must be here again. I sighed, quietly pushed the door open, stepped inside, and immediately locked it behind me. The house was dark, except for the faint glow coming from the kitchen light. Sitting on the counter was a note written in my mom's handwriting. It read, "You forgot this at our house." Right next to it was a box of half-eaten cake. Classic mom move. I didn't see her anywhere downstairs, so I figured, as usual, she probably decided to go upstairs and wait for me in the guest bedroom. Just then, I heard footsteps. Heavy, slow, creaking footsteps coming from upstairs. I sighed again, shaking my head. 27 years old, almost 3 in the morning, and Mom is still treating me like I'm 12. I walked up the stairs, expecting to find her tucked into the guest bed. But when I peeked in, the bed was empty. Sheets untouched. I checked the bathroom. Nothing. I checked the office. Empty. Now, my heart started racing. My first thought, is she having one of her episodes? Maybe she got confused, wandered off somewhere. I grabbed my phone, quickly dialed my dad. After a few rings, he picked up, his voice groggy. "What's the matter?" I told him, "Dad, I think Mom's in my house. She left the door unlocked. I can't hear her walking around upstairs, but I can't find her." There was a long, heavy pause on the line. Then he said, "That's not possible. She's sleeping right here next to me." My blood turned ice cold. I slowly turned my head, looking back toward the staircase. And in the faint light from the kitchen, I saw it. A head, a silhouette, peeking around the corner at the top of the stairs, staring right at me. I screamed into the phone, dropped it, and bolted for the front door. I ran down the street, barefoot, not looking back, yelling to my dad through the phone, "Someone's in the house. Someone's in the house." "I'm calling the cops," he yelled, then hung up. By the time I got to my parents' house, my mom was already at the front door, waiting, shaking, worried, sick. She explained, yes, she had come over earlier that evening, just to drop off the cake and tidy up the kitchen a little, but she swore she locked the door when she left. Not 5 minutes later, 2 police cruisers pulled up. My dad and I walked with the officers back to my house. One officer stayed outside with us, while the other 2 went in, guns drawn, flashlights cutting through the dark. We stood there, waiting, shivering from both the cold and the adrenaline. It felt like an eternity, but after about 15 minutes, the officers came back outside. "We checked everything," one of them said. "Crawl space, attic, closets, under the beds. The house is clear. But the thing is, I know what I saw. I wasn't drunk enough to imagine it." All they had to go on was an unlocked front door and my terrified report of seeing a head at the top of the stairs. No fingerprints. No signs of forced entry. Nothing. That night, I couldn't bring myself to sleep in that house. I stayed at my parents'. Since then, my dad has made sure my mom never goes over to my place alone anymore. Her memory has only gotten worse. And while that makes me sad, in a way, it also makes me feel safer. Still, on some nights, when the house gets a little too quiet, I catch myself wondering, what if whoever was in my house that night never left? What if, even now, they're still here, hiding somewhere, just waiting?